Okay, so welcome to my video. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hello everyone, my name is Nuralifia Putri Sugiyarto with the student ID 2100867. And today I would like to explain to you about Beyond the Pop, the surprising science or lack thereof of behind knuckles cracking and artistry's risk. Sorry. Okay, next. So, what is it? So, have you ever heard an audible pop when you crack your fingers like this? Yes, some people like to crack their fingers after doing an intensive workload, such as typing an article to release some tension or to loosen up their fingers. So, the popping sound associated with knuckles cracking has been raising concern to the generation as a possible joint damage, for example, an arthritis. So, arthritis So, in spite of how common this belief is spread, it's essential to look at how the joint actually work and indicates a need for a closer look at the factual scientific proof and or the non-existent proof surrounding this common habit. So, let's get to know a little more about this knuckles cracking. Okay, next. So let's discuss why the issue appear. So the issue arises from generation to generation, often cited as a cautionary tale against a seemingly harmless habit from the audible popping or cracking sound that accompanies knuckles cracking. This sound perceived as emanating from within the joints that led to concern about potential joint damages. As you can see here, this is the synovial joint and then example of the joints in our finger. So there are people who support this idea and also doesn't who reject this idea. So some people who know about this myth got a placebo effect causing their joint to feel slight discomfort. This idea then relied as personal observation and an anecdotal evidence that the older generation might pass down the information as a warning. So then the beliefs stay ongoing until now. And then there are people who reject this idea that some people are mostly done their research by reading some studies and research through the study they then understand the physiology behind of the sound. And in addition to that, they recognize the prevalence of the habit without widespread arthritis occurrences. Okay. Now let's go to the myths and the facts. So for the first part, myths. Knuckles cracking causes arthritis because the sound is caused by bones rubbing together. People also may witness or hear stories of individuals who crack their knuckles and later develop arthritis, leading to a perceived correlation. Now, let's go to the scientific facts or scientific explanation. So the first part, arthritis is an inflammation that occurs on the cartilage tissue resulting in impaired joint function. So cartilage is a connective tissue that functions to protect bones from touching each other when moving. And it is important to remember that most arthritis is caused by the wearing down of the cartilage. As you can see here, there is the cartilage behind me. Or by autoimmune diseases. Now, according to Dr. Clapper, the noise of cracking or popping in our joint is actually nitrogen bubbles bursting in our synovial fluid, not the bones rubbing together. So, according to him, synovial fluid lubricates your joint like motor oil in a car's engine, reducing friction and preserving our cartilage. The nitrogen bubbles within the synovial fluid usually take 20 minutes to reform in your joints before they can crack again. So as you can see here, there's a synovial joint between two bones, and then the nitrogen bubbles is the one that can lead to the voice of the cracking. All right, next, the third explanation. According to Dr. Rudderman, when you crack your knuckles, the popping noises or cracks are caused by bursting gas bubble in the joint or lubricant fluid. So it's still almost in line with the previous scientific explanation. The bubbles pop when you pull the bones apart, either by stretching the fingers or bending them backward, while the pulled apart bones can release endorphins that relieve pain, but is generally considered a harmless habit. And then the fourth one is Sweezy and Sweezy research in 1975 that investigated how common knuckle cracking was in elderly men, with an average age of 78.5 years compared to 11 years old. Their finding indicate that the data did not support the idea that knuckle cracking causes degenerative joint diseases in the metacarpophalangeal or MCP joint later in life. So according to S.Pd, the most significant negative outcome of frequently cracking one's knuckles seem to be the annoyance it causes to onlookers. And then the fifth scientific explanation, according to Castellanos and Axelrod in 1990, habitual knuckle crackers were more likely to have hand swelling and lower grip strength. This is the first one that scientific explanation that bends over all other scientific explanation. So their uh, studies contribute to Sweezy and Sweezy's hypothesis, discovering that while habitual knuckle cracking isn't linked to osteoarthritis in the hand, it is associated with reduced hand function, such as hand swelling and lower grip strength. There's research indicate that individuals who frequently crack their knuckles are more prone to engage in manual labor, bite their nails, smoke, and consume alcohol. Therefore, they concluded that hand function is not solely determined by knuckle cracking habits, but it is also influenced by external factors like occupation and also diet. So, from all the gathered scientific factual, we can conclude that scientific studies have largely failed to find a significant link between knuckles cracking and arthritis. So most studies examining the link between knuckles cracking and arthritis are observational and haven't found a connection. Although fewer studies report other association mainly through descriptive, small, or cross-sectional studies, according to Rispi and Lucas in 2018. Based from my standpoint, I have ever believed this myth when I was younger. What I know back then, the saying was, while you are younger, try to lessen your finger cracking because it might be harmful for when you are older. For years, I believed that and tried to minimize my cracking until one day I got curious and read some study finding the physiological facts of finger cracking. Ultimately, while cracking your knuckles probably won't give you an arthritis, it might be worth considering if it's linked to other habits that aren't so beneficial for your overall health, such as we have said before, perhaps biting our nails or smoking or also drinking an alcohol. And ultimate and it's a good example of how some common beliefs aren't always backed by scientific evidence and how seemingly simple habits can have more a nuanced association. Hopefully, after this finding, I can share this information to erase the stigma. And for my closing statement, try to not immediately believe all other people saying and try your best to search the scientific explanation. And here are some of the references that I used in this video. And I think that's all from me. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you for watching.